Good morning, good afternoon, and a very good evening to you, wherever you may be. If it is cutting-edge geopolitical analysis stemming out of South Asia that you are looking for, well, guess what? You found the right YouTube channel to kick off or wrap up your news day. My name is Wajahat S. I am in not-so-sunny London, wishing you a happy Easter. Usually, most of my vlogs are in Urdu, my national language, but because of the wild success of a recent vlog, I have been advised by friends, observers, colleagues, and fans to go ahead and, translate, if nothing else, some of my vlogs which have wider appeal into English, which is what this effort effectively is. Today is April 10th, and we are marking a year of the ouster of former Prime Minister Imran Khan. Much like every other Prime Minister in Pakistan who has come before him, Khan did not complete his term. But unlike the other premiers, some of whom were killed, some of whom were executed, some of whom were booted out, some of whom were exiled, Khan was removed and had the distinction of being removed, rather, by a rather well-organized vote of no confidence, put together by a multi-party coalition, which was, of course, captained by the one and only Pakistani military. Now, Khan, since that evening on April 9th, when, after a 12-hour proceeding in the Pakistani parliament, when Khan was booted out just 1 minute after midnight, and there was this whole drama where there were rumors of him being possibly arrested, etc., which were put to rest when he effectively left the Prime Minister's residence. Since then, Khan has gone on an offensive unlike any other in Pakistan's constitutional and political history. He has single-handedly taken on the Pakistani military, that great arbiter of the national polity, unlike any other politician before him. Many have tried, but nobody has inflicted such damage upon the Pakistani military, the Pakistani establishment, the Pakistani security regime, as has an Imran Khan, who has been ousted from the office of the Prime Minister. Now, the irony in all of this is that Khan, before he was ousted, was claiming to be on the same page as the Pakistani military. This is because, of course, because he appreciated the support that was extended to him by them for becoming Pakistan's Prime Minister in the first place in 2018. But they kept a very wobbly coalition around him, and when he became a little too big for his boots, the narrative goes, that's when they pulled the rug from under him, pulled the coalition from under him, and kicked him out. Now, since that last year, Khan's offensive has not just included the military, but of course his political opponents, the Pakistan Democratic Movement. Leading among them is the Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz, the party of former Premier Nawaz Sharif and his brother, the incumbent Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. It's a right-of-center political dynasty stemming from Pakistan's largest province, the Punjab. Then, of course, Khan's other nemesis remains Asif Ali Zardari, the widower of slain former Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto. Her son, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, now is the chairman of the party, but the real puppeteer in the Pakistan People's Party remains Asif Zardari, once known as Mr. 10%. Zardari is a great political manipulator and is seen as the brains behind the ouster of Imran. Now, Khan refuses to talk to any of these people, and because of that, the confrontation has turned not just intense, but also violent. There was an attack on him in October, November, which almost killed him. His supporters have been arrested. Some of them have been detained illegally. One of them, at least, has been killed extrajudicially by the Pakistani authorities, who have continued to turn the screws on Khan and his machine. But his machine, the juggernaut that is Khan's, that is the pro-Khan democratic movement, the other PDM, refuses to stop. So today is a checklist from yours truly to help those who study Pakistan understand and assess who are the real winners and who are the real losers in this drama, which is now exactly 1 year and 1 day old. Who's really won and who's really lost in this great political odyssey that is happening pretty much every day in Pakistan, despite the floods, despite the war against terror, despite Pakistan's spiraling economic crisis. The real story of Khan versus everybody else remains the great political drama to be watched in Pakistan. So my checklist today gives you a 360-degree view on, well, who's won and who's lost so far a year into this drama. So without much further ado, the biggest winner in this saga so far is Imran Khan himself. Pakistan's 23rd Prime Minister is now former Prime Minister, is more popular today than he has ever been in his 27-year-old career. The 70-year-old is not just energetic, not just popular in the polls, not just still a international media darling, not just still a well-kept sex symbol. He retains those former accolades of his. He retains all of those hats, but he's gone on to become and fire up he's gone to become a icon of what's wrong with and what the regular Pakistani has to go through on a daily basis. Khan has become a symbol of all that's wrong and all that should be right with the regular Pakistani voter. This is reflective, of course, in the polls. It's also reflective on social and digital media. Local media is all about him. International media can't get enough of him. He has really dominated the information space. Nobody has been able to counter what Khan has thrown their way. Yes, a year ago, he was a little more anti-American, a little more anti-Western, a little more anti-imperial than he is today, but he's been smart enough to pivot around those blocks and come back in and do some smart politics, where today there are indications that people in Washington, people in London, people in Beijing, people in Riyadh are beginning to realize that Imran Khan is a force to be reckoned with, a force to be dealt with, and Imran Khan will just not go away into the next post-exile election cycle. He refuses to walk away with his tail between his legs. Other prime ministers, leaders, etc., who have come before him have followed a formula of walking away from the crime scene with a tail between their legs, going to Saudi Arabia, going to England, going into exile, regrouping after a few years and winning some sympathies and coming back. Not Khan. He refuses to go away. In fact, he gets stronger by the day and has managed to rope in not just the sympathies of most people, according to the polls in Pakistan, but also, most importantly, the judiciary as well, which is now gunning for fresh elections within the 90-day stipulation in the Constitution. So Khan has emerged in the winner, but while he has emerged as the winner, it's come at the cost of making his nemesis, the army, the biggest loser in contemporary Pakistani politics. The army has for decades dominated Pakistan's polity, but no more. Yes, they're still 700,000 strong. Yes, they still have 200 nuclear weapons. Yes, they still have a monopoly over the brute force. The Pakistani intelligence agencies remain one of the most notorious ones in the world, with all sorts of tools and capacity to pretty much hit you wherever they feel like it at whatever time. They can listen in, tap in, and execute pretty much any mission when it comes to local politics, if not the war against terror or internal security. But this is not a lecture about the army's military might. This is really about checklisting where they've lost a lot of credibility. And that has come with pretty much the decimation of their PR wing, the ISPR, Inter-Services Public Relations, once the great puppeteer of the national narrative. The ISPR remains completely, if not destroyed, but pretty much mostly damaged because of the Khan digital machine, as well as what regular folks now think of the Army's PR dramatics. The ISPR has lost a lot of credibility, and the Army's messaging is effectively dead in the water. Even more importantly, the notorious, the infamous Inter-Services Intelligence, one of the biggest intelligence agencies in the world, hundreds of thousands of contractors, military personnel, intelligence agents, field agents, staffers work for these guys. They listen in, they tune in, they're watching. They're running one of the most brutal police states in the world. But the ISI, despite having lost the war in 1971 against India, despite major intelligence failures like the conflict in Kargil against India in 1999, like Osama bin Laden's hit in 2011, like other major intelligence failures, on one side, the ISI has still managed to retain some modicum of national respect because they are this fear-inspiring, awe-inspiring organization. No more. Because of the political meddling and because of the forthright support for Khan, the ISI stands a weakened political organization, a weakened intelligence agency today, by pretty much any means. Yes, they still wield a lot of power. There's a lot of brute force that the ISI can still pull off. But the very fact that Khan can, on a whim, tweet, for example, like he did just today, about how a police officer who was the lead investigator, the first investigator in the assassination hit on him last October, November, died prematurely this morning without, well, much explanation, died under mysterious circumstances. The very fact that Khan's tweet pushed off a whole litany with thousands and thousands of people saying that it must be the ISI which has been behind this, goes on to underscore that the Khan and the ISI now stand at a zero-sum game with each other. And that makes the ISI a great loser compared to the popularity of Khan's narrative. But most importantly, the biggest loser, if anyone, has emerged, the biggest single personality who has emerged as the biggest loser has been not the personality, but an office. The Chief of Army Staff, the SCOAS, as he's called, the most powerful man in the country, remains the four-star general who runs the army. The Chief of Army Staff last year was General Qamar Javed Bajwa. He's the one who started this entire drama, and he gave the reins to his hand-picked, hand-selected successor, General Asim Munir. Both infantrymen, by the end of days, by Bajwa's last days, Asim Munir was effectively running Bajwa's private intelligence networks from within GHQ and was rewarded amply for it. However, the very fact that the office of the Chief of Army Staff, once revered as this something which is like Napoleon meets the Pope in the Pakistani imagination, of course, is spat upon, is looked down on, is reviled because of the behavior of the last military chief. Less this one, but General Munir is fast losing credibility and fast losing confidence of his men and his officers within the Pakistani military. This does not bode well. Of course, the Pakistani army remains a very powerful, very disciplined force. I'm not predicting a colonel's coup by any means anytime soon, but the very fact that, according to reports, General Asim Munir was shouted down by the naval chief, the joint chief, and the air chief in a recent National Security Council meeting, where they pretty much put their hands up and said, we don't think that the military should mix business with pleasure when it comes to mixing up the judiciary, the war against terror, and the politicking which is ongoing with the country to delay the elections. That became headline news for some, but for me it was more. It was the beginning of the end of the awesomeness that comes with the office of the army chief. So clearly, the losers have been the army, but particularly the PR machine, the ISI, and the office of the chief of army staff. Winners continued. I'm going to now make it real quick. Continued winners for decades, well, 2 decades. The PTI's Imran Khan was blamed for not having a clear roster of number twos, a clear number 2, a clear number 3. It was just Imran and then everybody else. That doesn't ring true anymore, because Khan now commands a very, very strong ring of deputies who have emerged as winners in this last year of lots of trials and lots of tribulation. Former Information Minister Fawad Chaudhry, former Finance Minister Asad Umar, a young leader like Murad Saeed, an old senior leader like Azam Swati, because of pretty much pushing against the military machine. These guys have emerged as clear number 2s, former number 2s, technical number 2s like Shah Mahmood Qureshi, the former foreign minister, have unfortunately not performed as well, either electorally or operationally, which has perhaps deteriorated their popularity. But clearly, Khan can now rely on a clear roster of number 2s who have emerged as the second ring of power in the PTI, in the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, and that makes them winners. But losers, if there's a single loser in all of this, in this drama, politically speaking, then it has been the Pakistan Muslim League of Nawaz Sharif. This is the face of the PDM government, the imported government, as it's called. They've made the mistake of keeping some critical ministries and then really goofing around. It is a dynastic party, and they've behaved as these completely out of touch feed them cake dynasts. With the economy tumbling, they have messed about and put in their favorite uncle, their favorite in-law, Ishaq Dar, basically one of the several courtiers that Nawaz Sharif has managed to marry his family into and then co-opt into his inner circle. Basically a chartered accountant by profession, but not much else above that. Dar has single-handedly done more damage to the Pakistan economy than any other finance minister has in living history. However, they refuse to fire him because, well, guess what? He's a part of the family. And because of such moves of not really reading the room, reading the field, the Sharifs have managed to, well, pretty much self-inflict a lot of damage, where they could have shared the burden of the ministries with. Remember that there's 13 other political parties here, where the finance ministry could have gone to one of the other players, considering what a debacle Pakistan's economy was when Khan left office and when these guys took over, especially by the summer with the talks with the IMF being almost put on track and then derailed by their own political misgivings and by their own palace intrigues within the PML-N. It just seems that they have really, really shot themselves in the foot. But another great failure of the PML-N, the Pakistan Muslim League, has been to not be able to counter in any way the Imran Khan offensive, despite having the entire government machinery under them, despite having several mainstream media arms, anchors, owners, publications under them. They have the purse strings, and they have the network, and they have the contacts. They have not been able to put to rest Khan's offensive. They have not been able to block him off, and that has been another reason why they are on my loser list. But on my winner list is digital media. This has been born, and I'm not the only one who's doing this. There's younger people, older people, former military officers, housewives who've taken to the digital space, the urban youth, the rural youth. TikTok has become this great source of not just dance videos, but also political resentment, anger, citizen activism, which is now an actual thing. And the YouTube vlogger, perhaps today, demands more respect than, and the citizen tweeter demands more respect than the loser in the information stream, which has been the mainstream Pakistani media and news anchors, who have, we've known for years, been co-opted, they've been corrupt, they've been compromised, they've sold out to the highest bidders. But today, clearly, the polls indicated, the ratings indicated, the surveys indicated, the numbers on YouTube indicated, the people you talk to in marketing agencies who sell these people ads indicates it as well. Pakistani mainstream media, Pakistani legacy media, the newspapers, the television stations have, because of years of compromise and corruption, have now very little credibility. And whatever was left, whatever credibility was left, and I'm not saying everybody, of course, is not credible. If you work for Pakistani media, of course, I myself work for Pakistani mainstream media. However, the great whatever was left has been battered by overregulation and scare tactics, whether it is through legal ones, through PEMRA, the electronic media regulator, or illegal ones, which have been implemented by the Pakistani military intelligence apparatus. The winner, of course, when it comes to regular folks, the great winner has been the Pakistani young urban and rural voter. The young urban, the young rural voter is more fired up today. Man, woman, or everybody else is more fired up today than they have ever been, in at least my observation of living political history. The diaspora is also very fired up. For decades, disconnected from the Pakistani mainstream, where they could send in the big bucks, almost $15 to $20 billion a year goes in from diaspora accounts as remittances, which is the backbone of Pakistan's foreign exchange, but no more. The diaspora is angry. Not only have the diaspora started to get organized, but they have also started withholding payments because of the way the Pakistani political machine internally is working. And this should wake up the powers that be into coming to action and perhaps granting the diaspora rights like the right to vote. So for the diaspora is emerging as a winner in all of this, and there's a few of us. The largest diaspora populations, of course, are in the Middle East, but then the UK and the US and Canada, of course, remain the great hub of Pakistani expats. The loser in the voting world remains the machine voter. The person, and these are men and women, and of course some of them illegally sometimes happen to be children too, who for 1,000 or 2,000 rupees or for a quick meal end up selling their vote. And this, of course, is a sad story. It comes out of poverty. It comes out of a lack of awareness. There's a horror story behind the Pakistani democratic machine, which uses these people to cast their votes, cast their ballots, their invaluable ballots for a candidate of machine politics choice. But this, as I call it, the keema naan voter. The keema naan is a lovely snack which has now become synonymous. It's basically minced beef with naan, which it's really good. It's a great snack, but it's become synonymous with the desperation that the poor, that will feed the poor for a quick vote and standing for a couple of hours in the sun, under the sun, to cast their ballot for the right party, the party which feeds them, and then, of course, pretty much kills them over the next 5 years or so. That voter is now the loser. That voter will not be getting that snack. I feel that the days of machine voters are gone, and the days of machine politics are also over. But, and this may be controversial for some, I've already gotten some flack for this, but if there has been a winner, politically speaking, within the PDM, and this is a high stakes analysis, then it is the foreign minister, the youngest foreign minister in the country, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari. His recent remarks in Parliament were beneath him. I'm not going to go into that. I might come back and circle back to you with more of that later. But Bilawal Bhutto Zardari has pulled a Bhutto Zardari because in this 1 year, he's been smart to stay away from the melee and the drama and the violence of local politics. Not so today, though. In Parliament today, he got his hands dirty, but he's been mostly away from the melee and the melodrama of local politics and has spent a lot of time building a little reputation for himself in the right foreign capitals. He's been to the United States at least 5 times, and considering Washington is still considered the great benefactor, the great sponsor of the Pakistani power establishment, of the Pakistani power elite, this is being seen as a very smart move by the Bhutto Zardari clan, that while all the Sharifs and the Khans fought each other literally on the streets, Mr. Bhutto Zardari, our young foreign minister, was off to Geneva, off to Japan, off to Beijing, off to London, off to all the right capitals, making all the right contacts for the future. For when all these guys are fried, because they're all in their 70s and they're all going to get toasted pretty soon, if not by each other, then just by the laws of nature and gravity, then that is where Mr. Bhutto Zardari plans on emerging and becoming a top-of-mind leader for the international establishment when it comes to thinking about Pakistan. It's been a smart move. However, the question remains, will Mr. Bhutto Zardari still carry on in the dynastic tradition that he has been behaving of late, or will he actually step up and strap his boots on and represent a more progressive generation in a more progressive manner? Just because he's young, just because he's a Bhutto, doesn't really mean that he's going to be progressive. One really hopes that he is, but he's clearly emerged as the Machiavellian winner in this roster of losers that has been the PDM. And who are these losers? My God, pretty much all of them. The great loser, political loser as a personality is Maryam Nawaz Sharif. She tried to pull, she's called a lot of things. They accuse her of trying to mimic Benazir Bhutto, but she's failed drastically on that, and she's no Benazir, I can tell you that. But then again, it's also your grooming. I mean, Benazir went to Oxford and Harvard. This one, I don't think, has even graduated from a local college in the Punjab. So premised on that, there's a sense of entitlement which comes with being Nawaz Sharif's daughter. I'll give her that. However, her return to Pakistan last year, which was this, she's going to run this great political machine to counter Khan, that hasn't really paid off. Not much has happened under her tutelage and leadership. In fact, the great PML-N social media machine, which she once single-handedly funded, raised, has teetered in front of the mighty Khan machine. But it's not just her alone. Maryam is joined by her father, who has not managed to finagle a deal to return to Pakistan. He still remains in self-exile, and he still remains a wanted man. If he comes to Pakistan, he goes to jail. End of story. And he hasn't been, despite having his brother as the prime minister, he hasn't been able to navigate a way around that. And when it comes to the prime minister of Pakistan, I prefer calling him the chief minister of Pakistan. Shehbaz Sharif was once a mighty chief minister in the Punjab, and every time something big needed to happen, he would run all the way to Islamabad to get permission from his brother, the prime minister, Nawaz Sharif. He's still behaving that way, except this time now he runs off to London to get permission from the Prime Minister of Pakistan, or rather, is the not-so Prime Minister of Pakistan, but the man who still behaves like he's the PM, Nawaz Sharif. So the Sharif clan, Maryam, Nawaz, Shehbaz, have all emerged as losers, despite getting some serious gains from getting their cases, the legal cases, several of the legal cases around them checked off they still haven't been able to retain the crown of the Punjab. In fact, this entire foot dragging about the elections with Khan indicate their weak footing, their weakness in and the possibility of getting routed in a free and fair election when it comes to facing off against Khan. But to wrap up, the biggest loser in this entire saga, unfortunately, has been the Pakistani voter, with record inflation, record unemployment, record devaluation, record everything, and records have been broken not by a matter of years or quarters or years, but by a matter of decades. The Pakistani consumer, the Pakistani voter, have become intertwined as the Pakistani victim. And an entire generation of Pakistanis has been affected, double whammied, of course, by the effect of the devastating floods from last summer. Till today, over 20 million Pakistanis, 20 million remain without a home. There were more than 35 million who didn't have a roof over their heads. Around 15 or so now have been taken care of, but not everyone. Pakistan remains at the bottom of most social indices. In fact, at some levels, matching or even lowering in standards versus Afghanistan, which has long been the basket case of South Asia. But Pakistan remains now at the very bottom. The race, if there were one, against India, against Bangladesh, has been lost in Pakistan. Unfortunately, despite its numbers, despite its location, despite its potential, despite its population, despite its weapons, despite its political and military and industrial elite, Pakistan is now compared to the Afghanistans, the Sri Lankas, and the Nepals and the Bhutans of South Asia. This is terrible news, and it comes in the wake of this disaster that has been last year. But the possible winner, to end on a solid note, remains the promise of Pakistan's democracy. And if the constitution is followed, today was the 50th birthday of the Pakistani constitution. Unfortunately, not the country's first, not the country's second, but the country's third. And despite of being mutilated, despite of being suspended, despite of being abrogated, the Pakistani constitution remains. It has outlived pretty much everyone, including the people who suspended it and including the people who wrote it. And I hope that if the constitution is followed, the Pakistani voter will be able to vote with his and her feet and show the world the true potential of what this once great country did and can possibly do in the future as well. If you like my vlog, please subscribe, please share, please write to me. Feedback is key. Feedback is my fuel. I am usually on the road. I live in New York, but I'm currently in London. I'm heading off to Europe next. I'll be in Italy by the end of the week, and France, perhaps Germany, perhaps Spain. I'm still making up my mind. I'm taking a couple of weeks off. I have just lost a very close friend. I'm taking some time off to be by myself, but I will be pushing more vlogs like this. I hope this experiment in English doesn't really piss off my local watchers, but I hope, in fact, this only serves as a tool of analysis and education for those who are interested in listening to my perspective. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon. Take care, and Pakistan Zindabad.